Alright, well, let's take a look at these patch notes real quick. Okay, well, yeah, they had to do this soon, right? This was pretty egregious. Some high-performance cards in neutral and one high-performance card in Mage have had their appearance rates adjusted. What? Just tell us which one. I hate this company. What's the card? This is pathetic. They're terrible company. This is how we'll start our review. Terrible company. Brain dead dookie brains. Frozen touch. One. um. All right. Well, what? My guess would be Ruined Orb. Like what else? What else could it be? One. I mean, it's probably not Drakefire, right? Anyway, welcome to the Naxx Miniset review. Oh, man. Where does this show up? 5 stars. It's not a good place for it. Let's put that right here. This can come down a little. Welcome to the Naxx Miniset review, in which I review the Naxx Miniset. So yeah, because this is an abnormally late Miniset review, I will have a few insights about some of these cards, although, as we just saw in the patch notes, a lot of these got left out when the Miniset was released. Same week for adjustments is nice, though. It's nice to get the cards in that they left out, because, again, bad company. It happens every time. Somehow, for some reason. Nice to get that the same week. However, I do fear that this arena adjustment will justify not doing proper micro adjusts for a long time. But that's just the language of recipient of abuse talking, you know? You have to when in an abusive relationship with a card game development company, you have to have strong defense mechanisms, so you can never really hope for the best. Anyhow, I run a 0 to 5 scale for rating, much like with my movie reviews. That means that 2.5 is average, 5 is top of the tippity top, and 0 is totally unplayable in arena. Let's get started with... If I click this, that's good. That's good. That's nice and large. No Fins Impossible. They really just like... They like the mangle. They like the mangle language, huh? No Fins Impossible. Wowie. Did they manage to add the missing Miniset cards to drafts yet? You just get here? We were talking about that a grand total of a minute and a half ago. I'm cranky today. Just for those on YouTube, I had a cranky day. I did 3 hunters in a row, went 3-7-3. It's tough out there, this meta. Woo. But could have easily gone 1 or 0, so can't complain too much. 2 mana spell, rare. Give all friendly demons and murlocs death rattle, summon a 2/2 imp block. And we have the imp blocks here. Just a 2/2 Demon Murloc. Ooh, I like the look of that guy, though. He got a gourd nose. So... I guess what we're looking at here is a targeted synergy. Not targeted. Targeted is not the right word. We're looking at a synergy-based Soul of the Forest. Soul of the Forest is give your board Death Rattle, summon a 2/2 Treant. Lots of double tribe stuff coming up. Probably. It looks like it, yeah. And this is only for demons and murlocs. I would say for that reason, we're probably looking at a... We're probably looking at a 0.5 score for Arena. You could possibly make an argument for a 1. I would not make that argument. Because I really do think, like, oftentimes this will be a dead card, or at best, you're doing a 2 mana 2/2 that's staggered. So you can combo it with cards like... Three mana summon 4 imps, but it's so niche. I don't like it at all. I did hear that Warlock got screwed with the mini set cards, so we see that here. Let's see. Suspicious Peddler, 2 mana, 2/3, undead rare. Battle cry, discover 1-cost card. If your opponent guesses your choice, they get a copy. So this is Dark Peddler with an extra health point, a tag, and downside. I would say it's a lot worse than Dark Peddler for that reason, because you can't just take Ibis. Which is why Dark Peddler is good. I do not understand this card. What do you not understand then? Like why they printed it, or like how it works? It's like the suspicious cards, right? It's the other suspicious cards. The strict nerf on Peddler, yeah. Like you could argue that it's better on curve, and then you just take not a not good 1-drop. Maybe cycle too much. Yeah, I would call this card... Undead Tag is good. I would say it's certainly... Maybe, yeah, maybe we call it a 2. These are strictly rated based on Arena. If I weren't rating strictly on Arena, I would advise you to tune out right now, because I'll be telling you all sorts of wrong informations. I'm gonna call this a 2. I'll say it's below average. I don't like the downside that they can get the 1-drop you take. The good thing about Peddler is that some 1-drops occasionally are very strong, and I feel like it ought to be pretty easy. Like, the thing about the suspicious cards is sometimes you take a worse card to trick the opponent, but if you're doing that with this card, you're probably taking a really bad and ultimately not impactful 1-drop. Or 1-cost, rather. So, bit of a strange one here. Black Eruption. When you need to go to the dentist. 3 mana, common spell. Deal 2 damage to all minions. If you discarded a card this game, deal 1 more. Wow. This is a a mini set update for Warlock circa 2017. It's just Volcanic Potion and Demon Fire or whatever. Now, it is discarded a card this game, which it's not the least likely thing, but your upside there is you deal 1 more AoE. It's not even a one-sided AoE. There's a neutral card that has a body with it for only 1 more mana. I would also call this below average. I'll give it a 2. You could even argue for a 1.5 these days, but I'll give it a 2 because AoE is good. But it's certainly not the best AoE that Warlock has. That's for sure. So, Warlock as a whole, I think I will do this a little bit differently since we're in the thick of the meta already too. I think I will rate based on the class as a whole, not just the mini set, since it's only 3 new cards each, right? So Warlock as a whole right now, I haven't played a Warlock yet, but I've played against some of them. It feels like the class is... I'll say a 1.5. I was thinking about giving it a 1. But tap is always powerful, and you can get enough removals, and like that 5 mana Abominable card is still good, and Infestation is still good. You can get a good Warlock deck, so we'll say it's 1.5 right now. Moving on to Druid. Life from Death. 6 mana. Rare nature spell. Draw 3 cards. Infuse 6. This costs 1. So 6 mana for draw 3 is very bad in a world where Sprint costs 5. And itself is like not amazing. And in a world where Miracle Growth exists. But they're really hammering home card draw and generation for Druid, which strikes me as strange because that's not like... That's not a particularly sensible direction for their class identity, is it? Druid's downside has often been value, right? And now it's not a downside at all. All that being said, 1 mana draw 3 cards is fantastic, and with the nature of Druid being little poopers, you can get it infused for sure. And if you tap decking it in the late game and just have to play it right away, it's not the worst thing in the world. I don't hate this card. 1 mana draw 3. I think it's good value. I'd say 2.5 or 3. Call it average for now and keep an eye on how it performs. But refill for Druid that gets pretty cheap is a very scary thing. Infuse 6 is a lot, but Druid can do that pretty quickly. So like a strong 2.5. Rake. This card is interesting. I almost took it in a draft, but I had to pass it, so I haven't played with it yet. 1 mana rare spell. Give your hero +2 attack this turn. Deal damage equal to your hero's attack to a minion. I think this is a cool, very flexible card. It confused me a little bit the first time I saw it, so if you're finding it hard to parse, basically the idea is, let's say, turn 1, the opponent plays Mistress of Mixtures, 1 mana 2/2. You play Rake. Your hero gets to attack, and then you get to target 2 damage to a minion. So you can shoot the Mistress and send 2 face. If it's turn 3, you can play Rake. You can hero power and play Rake, and you have 3 damage and 3 damage, right? So it stacks in that way. And it does seem like you can target your own stuff, which is potentially helpful. I think this is a really strong tempo card, and there's definitely some ways to get a little bit of attack. Like, think of this with Park Panther. Turn 5, play Park Panther, rush into like a 2/4. You get 3 attack on your face. You play Rake, it goes up to 5. You can kill a 5/5 and send 5 damage face. That's incredible. So on its own, very good. In combination with other relevant combo cards, fantastic. I would say Rake is at least a 4. And I would even consider a 4.5, but we'll be a little conservative and say 4 here. You know, it's not the most valueful card for sure. But I love that you can, from 1 mana, hit multiple targets with significant damage amounts. That sort of thing's really important in this meta. making breaking points easier, setting up your stuff, comboing with things that have honorable kill, maybe. I wonder why the undead art for Druid. I know it's a theme, but yeah, I don't know. It is indeed the theme. And I think the idea of return to Naxxramas or whatever this is called is like kind of like an undead is a returning thing. I don't know. You return from the dead. We go back to the first expansion. Death Beetle. Oh. 6 mana, 6/6 common undead beast taunt mana thirst 11. Game +4/+4 in charge. Wait, how does that work? I assume there's cards in constructed that mean you can have more than 10 mana crystals. That's my assumption. Guff, Innervate. Does Innervate even work with this? I wouldn't think it does. So it's a Guff combo. What a load of Guff. So basically this is a 6 mana 6/6 taunt, which is mid. It's got 2 tags. I would say for a 6 mana 6/6 taunt, we're looking at like a 1.5, but a strong 1.5 taunt is solid. You don't want to draft a lot of just straight up bodies like this in this day and age. But you can draft this card, and it can be important sometimes. Totally mediocre expansion for Druid. I like Rake. I think Rake is strong. As for the class as a whole right now, Druid is one of the classes that I've gotten 11 with. I think it has fantastic potential. I think you draft Druid for pressure and value now. That makes it very good. I would say it's like a 4. Maybe 3.5. I need to draft a few more to see how consistent it is. That's the question. Maybe 3.5 if it's inconsistent. But there's a lot of really great tempo stuff for Druid, and the refill is incredible. Rogue. Stitched Creation. 3 mana, 1/1 rare undead. Combo, gain +2/+2. Infuse 2, gain +3/+3. Mana thirst 8. Gain +4/+4. Just give it. I'm just gonna go ahead and give it an NA, so I don't have to take 5 minutes to interpret the card and move on with my life. Wait, you never got 12 with Druid? That's probably not what you meant. Yeah, I've never gotten 12 with Druid in the last 3 days since the mini set was released. I've had 2 classes go 11 in the mini set era in the new rotation. Druid and Paladin. Okay, let's see. So basically you just hold this in your hand, play it in the late game, and it's a 3 mana 10/10. That's what I'm understanding. Like you're probably almost never gonna like coin it onto to be a 3/3. Maybe you play it in the mid game as a 6/6. But you wait till turn 8, more often than not it's gonna be a 10/10. Kind of a needlessly baffling card, but I don't know. I guess it's cool to have the different combinations. A 3-mana 10/10 in the late middle game is, I think, pretty strong. But it is just a body at the end of the day. 10/10 is a very good body, though. And Velstor makes a good point. If you silence it, it becomes a 4/4 because that's how infusion works. I think it's like a 4. You could definitely sneak some victories with a body that big. Body audio. Unless you're facing mage or whatever. Jolly Roger, 1 mana, 1/3 undead pirate, common. After your hero attacks, summon a 1/1 undead pirate. Okay, totally good early game card. It's got 2 tags, which is nice. I don't know that the pirate tag is that helpful. Like if you draw pirate, there's better pirates to draw probably. I think playing this on 1, they usually can't kill it, and then you dagger on 2, and you got an extra 1/1 on the board. That also has tags, good for undead synergies. You know, a 1 mana 1/3 is not going to knock anybody's socks off, and the later the game goes, the worse it becomes, but I think it's a pretty good early game card. Like, it's hard to just remove a 1/3 right away. Let's say 3 or 3.5. We'll call it a conservative but strong 3 above average. Nice card. Ransack, 0 mana common spell. Deal 1 damage to a minion. If you've played a card from another class this turn, deal 4 instead. 0 mana deal 1 sucks. And it's pretty conditional. I don't think I like this card. No. Bad. Get it out of here. I agree. I think it sucks. Like, backstab is pickable, but it's really not good anymore. And this is like a pumped up backstab that you need a very specific synergy to activate. I think 0.5 is about right. Not into it. And I don't know, you know, I know Blizzard is probably jealous of Nintendo for being a much better game developing company, but you didn't have to beat the shit out of Fem Zelda, or rather Fem Link in this. That's a little bit uncalled for. But maybe that's just me. Yeah, and these are just the other things for that. So, Stitch Creation's really good. Ransack is... We have, like, good, bad, and ugly here. Or rather, good, bad, and middle. Jolly Roger's the middle. So, really only Stitch Creation is going to be that impactful. As far as Rogue as a whole, I don't think it's that impressive of a class. I haven't seen it pop off too much. You can get to generating some stuff. Reconnaissance is a thing. I'd probably say it's like Warlock around the 1.5. You could maybe argue for 2. Stitch Creation probably fine, but not that good. I think it's good, but it is easy to just hard remove things right now. Frostfin Champere, 3 mana 2/3 Elemental Murloc, rare. Battlecry if you played an Elemental last turn, summon 3 1/1 Murlocs. I don't think this is a good card. It's a 3 mana 2/3 with synergistic upside. That synergy involves elementals. There are elementals around in this meta, but it's just not worth it to go in on this card. Like, the 3/1/1s is not even that good. Like, we're talking about Grim Necromancer. That's a 4-mana 2/4 with summons 2/1/1s, which is worse than this, but it's not conditional. Yeah, Trixor had the same observation. So, I would say, honestly, 0.5. I don't think you picked this for Arena. I think maybe you discover it with an Elemental in your hand. Maybe, if you don't have other good options in the Discover. A lot of these Miniset cards are pretty bad. And maybe the meta will actually go down in power when they actually add them to the to the game. It's a funny thought. Cold Storage, 1 mana, rare frost spell. Freeze a minion and a copy of it to your hand. Oh! Cool card, cool art as well. They're out there in the Ice King's castle. Now, if you know Blobby, you know that Blobby's a big fan of the freeze mechanic. Freeze mechanic frees you up. Freeze you. Freeze mechanic. Freeze you up. Freeze you up to kind of maneuver and do stuff and smork or not worry about trades until later. The downside of freeze is typically that it's much more of a tempo card than a value card. That's why I like something like Wind Chill so much, that freezes something and draws you a card. This has got to be better than Wind Chill, because rather than just a card from your deck, you could just take one of your opponent's cards. And you can play it immediately. Like, you can plan around it. You can save this Cold Storage. Like, think about if the opponent is played an Naxxramas. You just freeze it and then send 8 to their face, you know? Like, that's nutty. That's so good. I think it's a 5, maybe. I don't see any downside to this card. Worst case scenario, the opponent hasn't played any great minions. I mean, you could just hold it, but if you need to freeze something to survive, I don't know, you freeze a Yeti and you have a Yeti. It's still really good. More situational and bad in the early game, better in the late game. I wouldn't call it bad. Worse than Wind Chill in the early game? Maybe. Maybe. But there's still a lot of really good early game cards. This card is better than Puss in Boots 2. I think so. I think so. And that's saying a lot, man. I have a very high opinion of Puss in Boots 2. So flexible. Yeah, man, that cat was jumping around all over the place. It was crazy. Blazing Transmutation, 1 mana, common fire spell. Nice to get different tags in classes. I like fire spell and shaman. Choose a minion, discover one that costs 1 more to transform it into. Okay, I have run into this and it made me very, very, very angry. So I would say this is a phenomenal card. I would even go so far as to say I'll give it a strong 4.5, and I was tempted to give it 5 here. Here's why. The only downside to Evolve, which is a powerful mechanic, is that you don't control what it evolves into. This obliterates that downside. It's only missing Echo. Yeah. This card is breaking standard right now. I believe it. I believe it. So anytime you have a card that you value traded with, a card that maybe is a battle card with bad stats, a card that you're in a situation where you just need something to remove something to survive, you need a rush or a taunt, right? So you can look for a rush or a taunt. You could think about what mana cost has the most of those, play a minion, and then evolve it into that. You can, and again, Trixor is on the same page as me here. I was about to say the same thing. Your opponent has a nasty taunt. Now more than ever with this card, you can evolve your opponent's junk sensibly. You could take a Maorg, you could take a Tyrion, and evolve it into maybe like a 5/5 for lethal, right? Or even just for making it worse. You can I believe that you could sometimes with this card evolve an opponent's card just to make it worse, which is crazy. So Shaman's expansion here is by a huge margin the strongest among them that we've looked at. And that's even considering Frostfin Chomper is basically unpickable. So Shaman as a whole, I assume Cold Storage is one of the cards that they've left out because I haven't seen it. I have seen Blazing Transmutation. I think Shaman is not a premium class right now, but it can do very well. My Shaman did poorly. I think I low rolled the draft. I think it was still a fine deck, but not good enough for this meta. There's some synergy packages in Shaman that you have to get a little bit lucky for. If you pick up a few schoolings, that's nice. It's about offering rates, right? Sure. I'd take like 5 cold storage in an arena draft probably. Rather, I would take 30 cold storage. You know, there's like a meme discussion topic of like what, if any, cards would you take 30 of in a deck? Cold storage might be like number 1 on my list for that now. Can you think of a better one? Anytime your opponent plays anything, you freeze it and then it's yours. What else do you need? Maybe that deck wouldn't work super well, but discover stuff. Well, you just take your opponent's discovers. Yeah, so Shaman, I would say, I would give it a 3. I would say it's an above average class right now, and maybe with cold storage, like on its own, that might bump it up to a 3.5. At least it's not a common card though. Demon Hunter. Scale Evoker. 6 mana, 5/7 Demon Naga rare card. Battlecry. If you cast 3 spells while holding this, summon a different demon from your deck. They're still doing this 3 spell thing, huh? Okay, I was wondering about this wording for a second, but my assumption is they phrased it summon a different demon, meaning you can summon any demon that isn't Scale Evoker. A 6 mana 5/7 is a not good stat line. I wouldn't go so far as to say it's not an arena card though. I wouldn't go so far as to say that. Because in Demon Hunter, you probably have some demons in your deck. Imagine Illidari Inquisitor, right? But even if you just get Imp Gang Boss. Wait, that's a Warlock card. A demon that's like a 3/4 or a 4/5. That's still pretty good stats for cost. Now, it is very conditional, so you often won't be playing it for that. But if your Demon Hunter deck has a decent amount of spells, particularly small spells, which Demon Hunter can have, I could see you picking this. Let's say 1 or a 1.5. I'm gonna call it a 1. Not impressed, but it can high roll, and if you built a good deck for it late in the draft, you might want to take it. Definitely not a high priority pick. I agree with you there. Different means instead of or another. Summon instead of demon. Summon a different. I think it just means a demon that isn't Fell Scale Evoker. They could have made this an ogre stat line. That's true. That's true. So yeah, it is a bit weak, perplexingly weak. A lot of these mini set cards are for Arena, at least. Calamity's Grasp. That's a good name. The hell is this? This looks like this looks like a Evangelion angel or something. Like my eyes don't really know how to parse it. 1 mana, 1/2 rare weapon. Death Rattle, add a random outcast card to your hand. Hey, I like this card. This is a good card. No, I don't think that's it, Frank. But yeah, the phrasing is weird. Yeah, so this isn't like a dumb combo synergy card. This is just like a tiny weapon. You could play it on turn 1 for a ping. 1 mana, 1/2 weapon, perfectly fine in Demon Hunter specifically because you can hero power and make it a 2 damage ping. You swing it twice, you get an outcast card. Outcast cards are very good. This is great value. I really like this. Like, what's the downside? Not being able to play other weapons? Or just play another weapon over this, and then you get an outcast card. Like, 1 mana for a random outcast card, totally worth it, plus you get a weapon out of it. It's a Light's Justice that trades a ping for a random card. Not a random card, man. Not a random card. You are drastically underselling it. A random outcast card. Much better than a random card. I would call this a 4. I think this is very strong. But I've always been a particular fan of outcast cards. And I don't really know what outcast cards are in very well right now, because nobody's playing Demon Hunter. So contingent a little bit on that. You could maybe argue for a 3.5, but I would not go down to 3. No matter how much you haggle. I would not. Shambling Chow. Okay, this is an interesting one. I have seen this card, not in the meta, but in my heart. Shambling Chow is a 1 mana 2/3 undead common card. Rush. Death Rattle, deal 4 damage to your hero. I think this is a good card. You play it as a 1 mana 2/3 on turn 1, and accept the downside. That could be sad sometimes. If you're going for a high tempo Demon Hunter, maybe it's okay. But as a rush card, when you're using small rushes, like, think of it rather like on turn 1, the opponent plays a 1-drop, you play this going second, and a value trade. That's pretty good. Is it better than Zombie Chow? I would say it is. Yeah, I would say it is for sure. Is it better than Zombie Chow when Zombie Chow was released? No. But right now, yes. But if you think about it, it's all about, like, breaking points. You're often using Rush to deal with, like, a larger minion. Just, like, chunk away that last bit of health with a larger minion. And if that's the case, you can be saving yourself 5, 6, 7, 8 damage. And then you take 4 damage as a downside. All that being said, in some situations, it will be a worse Emerald Sky Talon. So I don't rate this super highly, but I will say above average. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I'll say above average. The damage is a bit punishing in Demon Hunter because you are using your face a lot, but I think I like the card. Although I will have to play with it to know. And I won't play with it because Demon Hunter's terrible. So I really like Calamity's Grasp. The others, not that impactful. Demon Hunter as a class right now is like a 0 point. You know what? It might be a 0. I'll say 0.5. Because it's better than, like, Warrior was at its worst. But it is dog crap right now, which makes me a bit sad. I like Demon Hunter. On to Mage, Spectral Trainee, 3 mana 1/4 rare undead. After you cast a spell, deal 1 damage to all enemy minions. You know, the stat line on this is terrible, but I have seen people use this to decent effect. And the thing is, this is a meta-dependent one. Because Mage is so strong and has so many punishing tiny spells. We're talking First Flame. We're talking Second Flame. We're talking the 2-mana deal 2 honorable kill. We're talking Ruined Orb. We're talking Frost Touch. I'd avoid this like the plague in drafts. I don't know. That was my first thought, but given the state of Mage right now, we're talking Cone of Cold. We're talking the other ones. There's a lot. There's a lot of small spells. So if it were like deal 3 damage to random enemies, that'd be one thing. But this is 1 damage to all enemy minions. That's a full board asymmetrical AoE. I still don't think this is a great card to draft. But if you have the spells already, it could make a lot of sense. And Mage chains so many spells. We're talking Ignite. We're talking Secrets. And there, I think, are a lot of cards in this meta that fill your board up with 1 health things, depending on what class you're playing. So I would say this is tentatively pickable. You'd never, ever want to just tempo it, like play it on curve or whatever, because it's such a bad stat line. I really am not sure what score to give it. I will give it a conservative 2. Below average, but totally pickable depending on your draft. I've gotten spanked by it once or twice. Whirlweaver. The Cousin of Worldcry. 3 mana 4/3 rare elemental Naga. Battlecry. If you've cast a spell last turn, discover an elemental. Same logic as the other card, right? Mage has spells out the butt. So even though a 3 mana 4/3 stat line's not hot, it does come with 2 tags, which is nice. And you're gonna get it active. Like, Mage is constantly playing that Spellcoiler card. Constantly. And it's always active. And by the way, coin for this, right? Play this and then coin Shooting Star or something. That'll take care of a board. The last turn thing can be a little bit awkward because sometimes you set it up and then something happens and you don't have the time or desire to play it anymore. But we're talking cold case, man. We're talking so very... We're talking fire sale. And Discover an Elemental can get you Prismatic Elemental, which wins games. Because it is conditional, I'd say 3 or a 3.5. I'll give it a 3 for now. Discover an elemental might be worse than discover a spell, so give it a 3. But a strong 3, I think. And heck, sometimes maybe you have to tempo it on 3. Tier Reality. 4 mana common arcane spell. Add 2 random mage spells from the past to your hand that cost 2 less. Gives you Conjurer's Calling every time. Every time. This one I played with a bit. The discount on the spells, I think, makes it good. I don't think it would be super good if it were just 4 mana, add 2 random mage spells from the past to your hand. And then some of these spells are going to be bad. Yeah. So to be clear, from the past does not mean 2 spells you've already cast this game. I mean from yesteryear. So spells that were in previous sets that aren't standard anymore. So like Conjurer's Calling, Glacial Mysteries, probably Ice Block, maybe, I don't know if it will pull that. So this is a pretty good value generator in a pinch, but not the best. It's fun. We'll call it average. You pick this when the other cards in the bucket aren't great. Puzzle Box, yeah, that's one. Overall, I'd say good mage update, but not great. They're all kind of the same vibe. Synergistic value and tempo things. We don't even really need to spend any time talking about mage as a whole right now. It's a 5. It's an unbelievably strong class. Been kicking my butt all day. Probably 80% of my losses have been mages. Maybe not quite that high, but... I like boxes. That's appropriate for the Yonic imagery here. Yeah, mage is the 5-iest 5 that ever 5'd right now. It's so annoying to play against. I would even take something like Release Cycle of Hatred Demon Hunter over mage right now, because at least in that case, you know what is coming. You know? Oy. Warrior time. Training session. 1 mana rare spell. Discover a taunt minion. If you play it this turn, repeat this. Discover a taunt minion. If you play it this turn, repeat this. Discover a taunt minion. If you play it this turn, repeat this. Discover a taunt minion. If you play it this turn, repeat this. Discover a taunt minion. If you play it this turn, repeat this. There's no escape from the loop! Wait, if discover a taunt minion if you play it this turn. Whew. I covered up the end, so I got out. You say meh? I think this is really good. The cards like Moonlit Guidance and Druid are, I think, really strong if you just like wait on them. And this is the pure value generator, so you're not going to be wanting to tempo it. So you never keep this in a mulligan. If you play a 4 mana taunt for 5 mana effectively, then you get a discover. Yeah, but you have to think, like, in Arena, you're gonna have plenty of other stuff to do for most of the game, and this just sits in your hand, which is fine. And then when you've run out of value, or you're not really sure what to do on your turn, or you just need a body to play, you play this. And unless you're taking that 10 mana 10/10 taunt, you will get the second discover every time. So 1 mana discover 2 taunts, I think, is an incredible card. And the only downside is, like, don't play it early. Which, if you have built a halfway decent deck that isn't, like, huge, that's not going to be a problem. And a lot of taunt minions have really good upside. You think it's bad? Oh, you're so wrong. You're so wrong about that, Oliflas. For Arena, it's very, very good. Very, very good. And I feel I'm only saying you're wrong because I know that it's true. I would be shocked if somebody said, I think this is mediocre. This is very, very strong card. It's at least always a 2-for-1. Yeah, I can't think of, like, what... Like, there's maybe some niche situation. Really? Yeah. You don't think 1 mana discover 2 taunts is good? Yeah, I know a guy who is a perfectly fine card, and that's just 1 mana discover a taunt. This is double that. What would be one negative thing you could say about this card? Like, I could maybe hear an argument that it's very good. I could maybe hear an argument that it's only very good, but I'm pretty sure it's at least great. This is a meta especially where value is the name of the game. It taxes you 1 extra mana for playing a taunt and replaces itself most of the time. Yeah, but in the late game, 1 mana doesn't matter. And I'm not sure what you mean by replaces itself. And I would say pretty much all the time. You just have to not misplay with it. Like, this card is bad if you misplay with it. I'll grant you that. But just don't misplay with it. It's like, there's a bunch of cards like this now where if you discover and then do the thing right away, you get upside. And all you have to do is wait until you have a lot of mana. That's it. It's easy. You got other stuff in your deck you can play in the meantime. And if you for some reason have like 7 training sessions in your deck and they're all in your hand and you only have 5 mana, then what the hell? Play one then and you still probably get it off twice. So like most of the time, you're spending 1 mana and you're generating, for example, a Talon Forge Ring and a Mawarg Forge Fiend. 1 mana for a 3/3 Death Rattle Divine Shield that draws your biggest card, and for an 8/8 Death Rattle armor, or 8 armor taunt. And that would be not even anywhere close to the highest of high rules. I think we're in a meta right now where a lot of taunts are very strong. If there's a good 2 mana taunt battle cries, you could get 3 small minions even. Yeah, a lot of taunts have battle cries too. Fine, I take it all back. Alright, I bullied you into submission satisfactorily. As far as what the rating is, I'm gonna be generous here and say 4.5. It's not a 5. And it might be a 4. But I don't think it's any lower than 4. It really depends on how good your average taunt discover is, which we're just gonna have to feel out as we go. Lesh Shaper, 6 mana, 3/8. Common undead. Taunt, battle cry. If you have 5 or more armor, summon a copy of this. That's an interesting one. Look at that art. Ooh. They've been doing pretty good with the card art in the last couple of expansions, I'd say. Better than in previous years. Nice colors in this. Like, this is a pretty good one. This is terrible. The hell were they thinking? Somebody was working from home and only had blue. Anyway. Constructed fodder? Yeah. Now, there are a decent amount of cards in Warrior that give you a bunch of armor. It's not the easiest to get 5 armor. Now, what do we think about a 6 mana 3/8 taunt on its own? Well, Warrior has a 6 mana 4/8 taunt rush, right? And that card's good. But this is 1 less power and without rush. So 6 mana 3/8 taunt, not that good. If you can double it, it's quite nice. It's still not the best thing in the world because, you know, we're basically talking about a slightly improved Druid turtle card. Best in Shell. Best in Shell's good right now, but it's not amazing. I'd rather have Best in Shell than this. Yeah, I don't think this is great. The more I think about it, like, you have cards that give you a bunch of armor, but you're not always going to draft them, and you're not always going to have played them, and you're not always going to be able to stabilize after you've played them. This is Ancient of Blossoms most of the time. Yeah. So I actually think this is, and I'm maybe even being generous in giving it a 1, but I think it's a 1. I was intrigued by the idea of it, but you do have to kind of be ahead and be armoring for this to work, which is not going to happen a lot. Hook Fist 3000, 3 mana, 4/3 Mech Pirate common. After your hero attacks, gain 4 armor and draw a card. Well, there's an armor generator. I don't care much about the armor from this, but drawing a card is super nice. You do have to combo it with a weapon, which makes it worse. Mech Pirate is a good couple of tags. I think this is pretty mid. Let's call it a... Oops. That was weird. Let's call it a 2.5, and this is a bit of a generous score. Not sure what weapons Warrior has access to these days, but the effect is great. The effect is great. Yeah, I agree. I don't think you're always going to have a weapon on hand in the arena. So we'll call it a 2.5. It would be like a 1.5 without the ability, right? So I think I'm being generous here. The Warrior stuff, again, bad, mid, good. So whole spread. Warrior in arena right now. It's not as bad as I thought. Based on what little I've seen of other people playing it, I say maybe a 1. Is Warrior better than... It might be... no, it's a 1.5. I don't think it's a 2. I think you can high roll Warrior, much like you could high roll Rogue or Warlock, but generally your decks are going to be pretty bad. But I haven't seen a lot of Warrior. Paladin time. Pizza time. The Purator. The Purator. Five mana, 4/6 legendary. Taunt, Battlecry. If your deck has no neutral cards, draw a minion of each minion type. Okay, it's a 5 mana, 4/6 taunt. Nice legendary. Boring. Alright, Goldwing. 4 mana, 3/5 Mech Dragon rare. Rush. Battlecry. If you're holding a mech, gain Wind Fury. There's mechs. And 4 mana, 3/5 Rush is fine. Totally pickable, totally playable. Let's say 2.5. Got decent upside. Maybe it's actually a 3. Maybe. If there's enough mechs in the meta. 3 mana, 5/5 Knight of the Dead. It's a common undead card. Battlecry. Deal 5 damage to your hero. Mana thirst 7. Restore 5 health to your hero instead. Okay, so this card is a 3 mana 5/5. It's very much like Bloodied Knight in this way. Bloodied Knight has one fewer stat point, and it doesn't have the tag. And it doesn't immediately deal 5, but it often does over a few turns. So Bloodied Knight is a good touchstone for this card, and Bloodied Knight is still very good in this meta. Not premium, but very good. Yeah, it was nice to see you, Omniflash. Thanks for hanging out. If you want to catch the rest of the, thingy, it'll be on YouTube. I'll try to get it there by tomorrow. It's good early and late. It's only bad when you're dead early. Yeah, I think so. And the nice thing about, drawing it late, 3 mana 5/5, still solid, and you get a little bit of healing out of it as upside, which can go a long way against Mage or Hunter, which are the top 2 classes right now. It's a little bit dangerous playing this early against Mage and Hunter, because they might just remove it, and then you took a pretty big chunk out of your health, but I think generally it will be worth it. 3.5 was suggested. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it is just a body. It's a good body, but it's a body, so we'll say 3.5. Bodies, bodies, bodies. Not an impressive expansion for Paladin. The class as a whole right now... What did we give Druid 4? Paladin's probably 4 too. It can high roll very, very nicely. There's a lot of high power Paladin cards. Sometimes you're going to be disappointed and your deck just won't congeal properly. Not necessarily the most flexible class, but it's very powerful. You still remove a removal from their hand that could have hit your 5-drop. Absolutely. Absolutely true. Yeah, you could pull a Fireball or a Life Sentence. I could hear an argument for 4, but yeah, we'll say 3.5. Priest. Cannabisize. 4 mana rare shadow spell. Destroy a minion, restore its health to all friendly characters. I think 9 times out of 10 this will full heal your board. So it's a 4 mana hard removal. Full heals your board. And it heals your face for a bunch. Very annoying to play against. Priest just doesn't want to die. Yeah, exactly. Just die already. 4 mana hard removal is good, and the upside is quite nice. You could use it for some amazing tempo stuff. Do some value trades, remove their big minion, all of a sudden your board's all healthy again. I'm gonna say 4.5. Maybe it's a 4, because there are cards that probably outpace it for hard removal now, but some hardcore art for Blizz. Yeah. Hey, Tool. Yeah, true. Little Night of the Living Dead action. I guess if you're gonna name a card Cannibalize, you have to go hard. I guess they copped out by making it like slime that they're eating. Rotting Necromancer. 4 mana, 5/4, common undead. Battlecry Dredge. If it's an undead, deal 5 damage to the enemy hero. I've often been a proponent for the value of a 4 mana 5/4 stat line. I really don't hate that stat line. It's better in more aggressive classes than Priest. But all of a sudden, if you do hit an undead, Priest becomes pretty aggressive. I think it's a bit of a long shot to assume you'll be able to consistently hit undead, or that you'll even want to. Sometimes the undead will be the worst card. But sometimes it will just be lethal, right? And at the very least, 4 mana, 5/4, Battlecry Dredge with an undead tag. That's a strong card. Dredge is a good ability. I like it a lot. I'm gonna say a strong and hardy 3.5. Verging on 4, but not quite there. They did not go hard on this art in terms of for what Rotting Necromancer could portray. This is very chipper and cheerful, but I do like it still. It's pretty funny. Mindseer. Mindseer. Chris Angel. Mindseer. 1 mana common shadow spell. Deal 2 damage to a minion. If it dies, deal 3 damage to the enemy hero. What are they pushing aggro priest for? It's weird to me. I don't think I like that. Like, every class can be every archetype. Finally giving priest an identity that isn't toxic. But priest's identity is absolutely toxic right now. It's just steal all your cards and remove all your stuff. Now they're also adding aggro to the mix. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But what do I know? I thought there was more than one mage card that needed its offering rate lowered, so what do I know? I'm a fool. That's why they're in charge. Um, 1 mana, deal 2 damage. Like, the extra chip damage to their face is nice. I think this is not that good. I'll say 1.5. We're talking about an arcane bolt here. Is that the one that doesn't have Mana Thirst? We're talking about whatever the 1 mana deal 2 card is. I guess a worse Holy Smite, yeah. This might be a 1. I'll stick it at 1.5 though. These are pretty good. Pretty strong expansion for Priest here. As far as the class as a whole right now, I'd say it's right down the middle. You're gonna be very hit or miss with Priest. Sometimes you're gonna be able to steal all your opponent's good stuff and rub it in their face. That'll feel strong. Sometimes you'll have a very flat deck that doesn't do a whole lot, and you'll get stomped pretty hard. Alright, we have Hunter, and then Neutral, and then Death Knight for some reason. Probably flip the last. Okay, Faithful Companion, 7 mana rare spell. Discover Breached from your deck and summon it. Mana Thirst 10, also summon a copy of it. I wanted to draft this once or twice today, but I really couldn't justify it. You basically need Mountain Bears in your deck to take this. Mountain Bears and Tarantulas. 7 mana for 2 Tarantulas. That's pretty good. 2 Mountain Bears? That's fantastic. Not a lot of other... I mean, Sin Runner is good, but you can't... Like, you have a lot of small beasts in Hunter a lot of the time, too. And you have to wait until turn 10 for this. I'm gonna call this a 1.5. Powerful, yes. But very situational. Zombies! 2 mana, common secret. After your opponent plays a minion, summon 4 1/1 zombies to attack it. So I've seen this about and out quite a bit because of like secret discovers and stuff. I think it's okay. If your opponent summons something that has less than 4 health, you will have 1/1s remaining on your board. You think about like explosive runes. That's for 3 mana, deal 6 to something they summon. You think about snipe, that is 2 mana, deal 4 to something they summon. It's a better snipe because it's more flexible. It's better because it can leave 1/1s behind it. Also because it does better against Divine Shield minions, or perhaps like a Reef Walker or a Reborn, a very small Reborn. That being said, Explosive Runes and Sniper are not good cards. How would this compare to like a Snake Trap? It's very situational, I think. And if your opponent plays something bigger, maybe the 4 chip damage matters, maybe it doesn't. Yeah, just a very situational card. I'd say 2 or 2.5. I think it's a 2 for the draft, and sometimes you'll be happy to discover it. Or at least content. I don't know about happy. That's what the zombies look like. Tinket Tacker. 1 mana, 1/1 common undead, battle cry, draw, 1 cost spell. So in my experience, this is not a great arena card, even though I want it to be. I like cards like this, little cards that give you a little bit of value. I just don't find myself drafting 1 cost spells in Hunter. Arcane Shot, that's what it is. Arcane Shot, 1 mana, deal 2. You don't draft that anymore. You occasionally draft Ricochet Shot, but you're not happy about it. What else? What else is there even? Is there other stuff? Yeah, Barbed Nets, okay. No, I think that's 1 mana, but you don't really want to draft that either. So what we're looking at is something that in a lot of decks is going to be a 1 mana 1/1, which is unbelievably bad. And the upside isn't even crazy if you do hit it. Like if you've somehow been forced into drafting 2 Ricochet Shots, which we may have actually been today, then you can draft this. It's still not amazing. I'd give it a 1. I'm just trying to stay on theme here by giving it a 1. It's a 1/1/1 that draws a 1, so I give it 1. Great. These aren't really good Hunter cards. I think Zombies is cool. I'm happy to have it in the secret pool. The deck thinning aspect doesn't grab you at all. I would rather thin my deck by not drafting the cards. I mean, I know you're forced to do it sometimes, but like even if you are forced into, let's say, a Ricochet Shot, what if you draw it first? Then it's a 1 mana 1/1 still. You would need 2 of them, and that would be a very bad draft. And this is not going to fix a draft that bad. But your point is good. If you are forced into 2 or 3 somehow, then you draft this. It will thin your deck in an acceptable fashion. Pretty bad the extra mini set cards for Hunter. The class as a whole right now, I'll give it a 4. I've really been struggling to get Hunter to work today, but I feel the potential there. I feel how strong it is. I want it to be like a 4.5, but it's been feeling more like a 3 to me. I'll stick it with 4 for now. Let's hop down to Death Knight. Construct Quarter. Like they do at the Mint. 3 mana. Rare. This is a location, right? Hey, Taze, thank you for the raid. Come on in. Welcome, welcome. This is a location, right? So I'm to believe You're joining me for a mini set review, a bit overdue, but here we are. I'm to believe that this is a better triple. What's that card called? The 2 mana, the 4. What's it? This is a better. This is for 3 mana, you get 3 of those? Yeah, Dark Transformation. Yeah, nice to see you. So you get 3 Dark Transformations, and it doesn't even have to be undead. And it's not, you're right, it's not transform, it's destroy, so you get death rattles. What? Are you kidding me? So, like, you just hero power for 3 turns and you get a 4/5 rush every time. It's a 5. This is nuts, right? I'm not missing something, am I? Mad Science Laboratory is right. Like, Dark Transformation is already a really good card, and it's you burn a whole card to transform. Sometimes you spend 4 mana to make a 4/5 with Rush, and it's still a really good card. With this, you spend 3 mana, you get that 3 times, but better each time. What were they thinking? Downside only friendly? Okay, minuscule downside if you really look for it. Yeah, minuscule downside. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. This should be 2 triggers. I could accept this if it was 2 triggers. But I cannot accept this. Frankly, Death Knight seems like it needs some help right now, so it's fine. Rhyme Scale Siren, 3 mana, 2/3, Undead, Naga, Common. Battlecry, if you cast 3 spells while holding this, freeze 3 random enemy minions. It's better than the Murloc one. I still don't like the condition. Freezing 3 random enemy minions is fine, but it just takes too much work to accomplish. Let's say 1, possibly 1.5. Alright, now let's look at this big boy down here. Frost Queen Syndragosa. 7 mana, 6/6, legendary, undead dragon, colossal +2. After an enemy minion is frozen, destroy it. Oh, the dual runes. That's cool. That's the first time we've seen that, right? 2 different runes. Frost and blood. Blood. So these are the wings. 1 mana, rush, 2/1 undead dragon, freeze any character damaged by this minion. So functionally, you play Syndragosa, and you immediately kill 2 minions. And for 7 mana, so like you're playing a 7 mana dual hard removal with additional upside that you could have another freeze card that you could use with it. Not that many in Death Knight, but even still. There's a couple. There's Icy Touch, right? So like you could even combo this with Icy Touch. But yeah, it's functionally a 7 mana 6/6 remove 2 cards. That's very good. It's not the best Colossal or anything like that, but it's very good. You could combo this with... I don't know. Winning? Seems like a 4.5 to me. I wouldn't rate it 5. There's better Colossals. But it's a hell of a board swing. With the exception of this thing, Death Knight is getting some really good stuff here. I'm still aghast by this. Crazy. So easy to set up, so easy to pay off. As a whole, Death Knight right now, I think, is like a 2. I've drafted one Death Knight. It was totally mediocre. I don't know what happened between last meta and this one, but it's looking pretty shabby right now. Let's jump up to the neutrals. New neutrals. Thaddeus Monstrosity. 10 mana, 11/11. Undead Legendary. Taunt. Your odd cost cards cost 1. Swaps polarity each turn, presumably meaning that on the alternate turns it will be your even cost cards cost 1. So... why is it just Juggernaut? I don't really... like, this looks scary. But I was making a joke about Living Monument earlier, the 10 mana 10/10 taunt. Like, think about that card. It's not that good. This is 11/11 taunt. It's not that good. And you're not really going to be able, unless you have coin for some godforsaken reason, you're not going to be able to take advantage of its ability. And, like, if you can take advantage of its ability, sure, you might win. But if they've left your 10 mana 11/11 taunt alive, it's probably because they don't have an answer, in which case you probably just win anyway. But let's be real, they usually have an answer. So I'm not terribly impressed by Thaddeus here. I would go so far as to say 2.5. It's an average card. You can win some games if you've already run the opponent out of all their stuff. Mistake! Transform a 9-inch shaman with that 1 mana discover transform. Yeah, that damn 6/8 Wind Fury mind control minion. I still have PTSD from that. 1 mana 1/3 epic. Oh, this has all minion types. Solid card. I like it. Oops. It enables synergies, and it's a perfectly acceptable 1-drop. I'm not gonna give it any more than a 2.5. It's average. That card made my 3/2 Undead Shaman and Undead Summon and Shaman work. Great card. Yeah. Totally fine to draft if it's not against good stuff. But you're generally gonna pass it otherwise. Or if you have a very high synergy deck, if you have a couple of Gorilla Bots, if you have Undead and Elemental stuff in Shaman. You know, there's some classes right now where there's multiple tags that can do things. This is really good for that. If you draft it, it is always going to be a mistake. Lost Exarch. 4 mana, 5/4 rare undead. Death Rattle, spend all your mana, summon that many 2/2 zombies with Rush. Yeah, so this one I was... it took me a little bit to wrap my head around it, but I've since played with it a little bit. I like this card. I was talking earlier about how I'm a proponent of 4 mana, 5/4 stat line. It's got that undead tag. Thinking about it in combination with the Death Knight location now. Oh man. But yeah, it's working. Basically, the way this works is if you play it on turn 4, they kill it, nothing happens. If you play it on turn 5 and they kill it, you have one more mana crystal left over, so you will summon a 2/2 zombie with Rush. If you play it and they don't kill it, and it's your turn, and you say have 6 mana, you can run it into something and get 6 2/2 zombies with Rush, and that'll be your turn. Or you could play a 3-drop, run it into something, get 3 2/2 zombies with Rush, if you take my meaning. This card is cool so far. I agree. I think it's actually a really great design. I love this card. Might be one of my favorite cards of the entire mini set. Top 3 for sure. Because I've already found myself doing things like skipping a hero power, even when I'm trying to be aggressive in Hunter, for example. Skipping a hero power just to disincentivize the opponent from killing it. Or if they do kill it, force them to also have to deal with some 2/2s. So you're gonna have all these really complex choices to make about how and when you want to play it. Do you want to play it on curve on turn 4 and just pray that they don't remove it? Do you want to hold it for turn 5 or turn 6 or even later? Do you want to skip a hero power or even skip a 2 or a 3-drop? You know, top deck it on the late game. You play it, you have 6 mana left over. That's kind of good. It's got 6 2/2s inside of it, you know? It being Death Rattle makes it interact in a cool way with the board. Yeah. Both you and your opponent are going to have some very nuanced decisions to make around this. And that's what I consider to be the hallmark of a good card. As for its rating, I'd say 3.5. I wouldn't go crazy with singing its accolades. It's still ultimately a 4-mana 5/4 with an upside that sucks your mana. But flexible, interesting, good at many different stages of the game. I like this card. I'll probably be drafting it a lot. Darkfallen Shadow, 3 mana, 3/3 common undead, rush, mana thirst, 6 gain reborn. Okay, so this is one of the ones they've left out, I assume, because I haven't really seen it. 3 mana, 3/3 rush. Now, that's just a impatient shopkeep without tradable. If you wait until turn 6, it becomes 3 mana for 2 3 damage rushes, which is nice. I'd say like you could just play it as like essentially a candle taker if you don't want to rush into anything. I would say 2.5. I don't think this card's amazing. I think it's totally functional, workman-like, nice rush to pick up if it's not against good cards. Can remove a couple of things in a pinch, or one big thing. Solid. Somewhat like a perhaps slightly more flexible armorer, that card, the rush card, that doesn't value trade as well. So it's more flexible in the damage it can deal, but it's worse in that it doesn't value trade like that card does. So it's a trade-off. Okay. Right, I guess we have to look at this thing. Neutral legendary, Rivendare War Rider. 6 mana, 6/6 legendary undead. Death Rattle. Shuffle the other 3 horsemen into your deck. And they are 6/6 lifesteal, 6/6 rush, and 6/6 taunt. If all of them die, you win. You're very rarely going to get that win condition off. It's possible. It's possible. Restless Mummy. Yeah, you make a good case. It is like a Restless Mummy, which I actually really like Restless Mummies, so maybe it's better than 2.5. I'll say 3. I'll retroactively say that was a 3. I rescind. You're very rarely gonna get this win condition off. Sometimes games go long, so it's possible. It's just gonna take forever to draw these. The big question with cards like these is, are these really gonna be better than your typical top deck? 6/6/6 Lifesteal or Taunt? Sometimes yes, but usually not. The Rush is good. It's not amazing. They're all kind of mediocre. So in a way, you're bloating your deck a little bit. This card gets better the worse your deck is, I'll put it that way. And you don't want to play a 6-mana 6/6 on 6. So I actually think this is like a 1.5 with a very high upside. But keep in mind, you're shuffling 3 cards in your deck, which means it's going to take you even longer to get through your whole deck. Yes, that is the card that Blackout Chili is referring to. What is the 3-minute? That's Candle Taker. That's the one I mentioned earlier. Why would it be more like Candle Taker than the Mummy? I think Mummy's a... I mean, it's like both of them in a way. It's like a Mummy that you can use as a Candle Taker, which Mummy also is. If they all had Rush, it would be better. I agree with that. Sometimes you're gonna want the Lifesteal or the Taunt, I suppose, but... yeah, it's not great. That's it, y'all. That's Return to Naxxramas. I've been your stewardess, Blobby. It's been nice. It's been grand. We've had safe travels. Little turbulence. And everyone give a thank you to Velstorm if you enjoyed this, because I wasn't even going to do this except for her sponsorship. So everybody just give claps for Velstorm. Easy clap. Cheers, Blob. Looking forward to seeing some of those missing cards. I'm looking forward to see that Mage offering rate nerf. Booyah.